PCOS shares a lot of metabolic characteristics with type 2 diabetes. So there is insulin resistance going on. There is impaired glycemic control going on. And so we can pretty much justify being cautious with total amount of carbohydrate intake with PCOS. But because it shares so many similar characteristics with type 2 diabetes, then we can pretty much employ the same principles of how we would intervene with type 2 diabetes, which would, number one, put a priority on total body fat reduction. And then tier number 2 would be, all right, do we need to restrict carbohydrates even further?
He actually followed on that study with the largest ever analysis of the impact of nutrition, particularly carbohydrates, in over 46,000 patients with type 1 diabetes. We showed that in over 70% of all reports of very low carbohydrate ketogenic diets, that patients were completely able to normalize their glucose control, normalize the most potent risk factor for the disease of type 1 diabetes.
You have human studies where people have significant fatty liver disease confirmed through ultrasound measurements, and they can just go on a ketogenic or a low-carb diet for just a week. And if I recall the study correctly, I think it reduced the liver fat by like 60%, and which was significantly more than the high-carb version.
The most effective things that keto does is it reduces insulin resistance, which is something that most of us suffer as we get older and larger, as we get through our life. When you're on a keto diet, it's been observed that you get more insulin sensitive. So in other words, insulin works better. So you can reverse early stages of diabetes by switching to a keto, for example. Now, interestingly, many menstrual problems are linked to insulin resistance. And there's something called PCOS, which affects quite a lot of women now, in which the ovaries basically produce more hormone-producing cysts, polycystic ovary syndrome. And that is increasingly linked with insulin resistance.
I told him, check it out, you got a fatty liver. So, yeah, I had a fatty liver. I said, I know. He said, my doctor told me not to eat fat. I'm like, man. So the doctor was telling me he's got a fatty liver, so stop eating fat. I said, that's absolutely the worst advice you could get.
It's
because the reason you've got fatty liver is it's uncontrolled blood sugar. So we get your blood sugar down. 1 month, his liver was normal, his blood sugar was normal. He lost like 5-6 kilos of body fat.